You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, Christina.
Well, hello.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Doing good. I'm so glad we finally got to nail this in.
Here we
Uh,
go.
oh my God. I've been so excited. So thank you so much for saying yes. I love your people. You guys are good people.
You. Which people?
Oh, your publicists, your people. I love them because a lot of people say no. So thank you so much for saying yes. And this might be weird, but I don't like to read books. I like to listen to books. So
Hmm.
I was searching the web, and I saw that you read a book by R.L. Stein, which I was thinking of buying because you did it, called The Dare.
So it's a different Christine Moore.
Oh, it's not you?
So
Oh my God.
there's a television, there's a really prolific television director who's also Christina Moore. There's a person who reads like really big novels, and that is also me, but not me at all.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't buy it then, because I only would have bought it if it supported you.
Maybe it's some like another, maybe the other version of me is like great,
Yeah, well, you do have a very good popular name. A lot of Christina Moores out there, right?
right? Yes. There were two in my graduating class from high school.
Oh, really? Holy Lord.
Hmm. Well, and there were two in the state of Illinois that had my exact birthday, my exact name, and we were given the same driver's license number and didn't neither of us knew that. And then eventually I got like pulled over for having a busted taillight or something, and they were like, "Oh, you're wanted for, I don't know, we need to arrest you or some craziness," and then came and figured out that we were not the same person. Got that
Oh,
sorted.
oh my God. That's like major anxiety, but also kind of funny. You know what I mean?
I mean, no, I think actually super funny, super great.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to start with your TV stuff and then we'll move on to your movies because I think you're one of the very few people who have been in literally all the best sitcoms.
Thank you. Yeah,
Like
in the olden
everyone.
days, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Friends, Married with Children. And you did Just Shoot Me and Will and Grace. I wanted to ask you about Married with Children because your scene in that episode is pretty ironic, where the wind blows off your
All
clothes,
my clothes, yeah.
and I wanted to know how is that like filmed or whatever, because that was in the early '90s. So like I didn't know, was technology that strong to like, did they do it with fans or something?
They did it with fans, but also like a breakaway dress held together with Velcro and then like fishing wire. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like invisible wire, and then the fans go, and then I sell it by moving my body. So you're not really paying attention to where this stuff is, but it's a totally practical stunt. It's not visual or CGI. I mean, yeah, long, long time ago.
Yeah. But like so when you were starting acting, like that must have given you like so much good confidence doing all these hit shows because everyone watched those. So like everyone knew who you were.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal, and it's funny. So it doesn't exist anymore. Now it's a parking lot, but there was a building called Building 146 over at Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers Studios kind of had not Married with Children, but kind of had all the hots at the same time. And the casting directors were all in one long hallway. And so, really, by the time I had booked one, then that person told their friend, "Hey, this new girl's in town. You should have her come in for that." And like, I just honestly, I owe it all to that one hallway and all those very generous people. And I like went up one side and down the other,
Yeah.
booking really cool shows as like a really fresh, brand new nerd on the block. So
Well, I think
thank
that
you.
I think that's awesome because that also shows you that networking really does help in this business, you know?
It's
Because
huge.
yeah,
It's the
so
biggest thing we've got. It's personal relationships. Yeah,
and
for sure.
you did it before social media, so that's an accomplishment. You know?
Olden days. Yeah.
Olden days, people would be like, "Hey, it's either you or the lady who has a broken tail light."
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I would say your big role on the TV is when you took over for that 70s show. So I wanted to know like I know like you took it over from someone, but I wanted to know like how was that audition? Did they just offer it to you or did you have to audition and did you study that character before you got it?
So I had never seen the show. I didn't know how popular it was, which was kind of the thing that happened. I mean, I was, I was a kid, moved across the country, came from Chicago. I was waiting tables from like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. every night. I was going to acting class. Like what I really wasn't doing was watching television. So
Right.
I had no idea how hot Friends was when I did it, and I had no idea what that 70s show was. And I just got an audition and we knew we were replacing somebody. And I kind of made the decision like, I, I mean, really, I don't have time to try to figure out how to watch this and how to mimic this girl. And like, I'm going to just do what I do. And if that works, then yay.
Yeah.
But I can't, I'm not, there's not enough time. And it's because I think honestly, it was like, you auditioned on a Monday and like by the next Monday, somebody had to be on set. They did not have time to like, so this isn't like I'm Daniel Day-Lewis and I go on a 3-month journey where I just memorize every facial tick that she
Right.
ever had. And I think they put out a pretty wide net to see if they could, recast Lori Foreman. And really fascinating, really difficult job as it turned out, because there were a lot of personal reasons why they replaced the character. And it was something that they weren't comfortable kind of releasing publicly. So the fans didn't know that this was coming.
Right.
And so, like, the very first live taping I ever did, I came out onto the set and all of the live audience just booed and
Oh,
screamed and freaked out.
oh my God.
God bless Wilmer Valderrama. He ran up and grabbed the microphone and said, we have to welcome our new friend. Like, guys, I need you to be with me. I really need you to embrace this. And I'm not sure that they ever did. I'm not sure that the fans, the true diehard fans, ever really got over it. I mean, there's only like 10 total times in all of television history that a character on prime time was like recast.
Replaced.
It's like
Yeah.
me and Darren from Bewitched. I mean, there's so few of them. And and all the sisters on Roseanne. So
And then Roseanne eventually.
yeah, and then Roseanne eventually. So it was a fascinating, weird, wild gig. And I again did not know how popular it was till I was then on it. And yeah, game
Yeah.
changer.
Well, I'm so sorry you got booed because like I come from stand up and I remember when I first started stand up, like that was my biggest fear is like what if people boo me? But I realized the more I did it, it never happened and I always figured booing was like at sports arenas or something. So like now, you know what I mean? So now when you tell
Yeah,
me you
right.
got booed, I was like, "Oh my God, that's terrible. I feel so bad for you."
Well, thank you. I mean, I knew it really, yeah, it was not fun. Not a good time, but I don't think it was really personal.
Yeah,
That by then it was season 6, the fans were attached to those characters. So
definitely. Yeah. And then you did Without a Paddle, and I was wondering, was that your first movie, or because I think that's a great, funny movie.
thank you. It's funny, kind of all of everything you're talking about really stems from my time on Mad TV.
Yeah, we're gonna
So
get into Mad TV.
So it started it, and I think that there's not. I was in a live sketch group with some girlfriends called Bitch is Funny, and we were kind of all over LA doing live sketch,
Yeah,
and that's how I got on Mad TV. And really, like in the comedy world, it's like it's comedy knighthood. No one assumes that you can do sketch and write your own stuff if you're not like kind of really funny for
Right.
real. And so that's kind of what led to that 70s show. It's very specifically what led to Without a Paddle, because the director watched sketch comedy. And those two jobs were happening simultaneously, which is kind of almost never the case in Hollywood. I happened to book them on the same day. So
Oh my
typically
God.
it's like, if you book one, they own you. And then when your offer would come in for the other, it would be like, nah, I can't do it because the dates are going to conflict or whatever. But the fact that they happened, they both had to work around my schedule. So yeah, one of my super sexy moments as a human being was that I left a live taping to get into a limousine to go to the airport to fly to New Zealand to shoot a big feature film.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
And when we got to New Zealand, where we were shooting was so deep into the woods that we took a helicopter to set every day.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
My
yeah.
my friend actually wrote Without a Paddle, Fred
Oh,
Wolf. Yeah. So
yeah, fun.
yeah, so like I love everything Fred does. So I think that he has like a good eye for comedy. Yeah.
I mean, it was a great time. It was wild. It's kooky. It's a kooky movie.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have been part of it.
And then like you mentioned Mad TV and I wanted to talk about that too. Was that like did that give when you got on that show, did that give you like anxiety and stress? Because with like with all this because you know how comedy is like so different one day and then the next day it's totally a new thing.
It's yes. Again, I gotta say, I was blissfully young and dumb for a lot of my. I had not seen the show. I didn't really know what it. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't really know. I hadn't like researched it, so I just kind of showed up and was like, I mean, yeah, this is scary because you're expected to pitch stuff every week. You're expected to have new ideas. You definitely have to have like an eye for news. And I would go to, this is old school, so like go to a
Yeah.
magazine stand and buy 20 magazines, so I knew who was dating who and who had done something stupid and blah. So that was pressure, but I really had such a fun time. And I was part of kind of a new class, like
Yeah.
there was the OGs, and then I was part of like the next gen that was coming in, and we were all pretty fresh and new. And I mean, it's hard work, but it was, I didn't know to be scared.
Right. I get
I
that.
probably
Yeah.
should have been.
Yeah. I auditioned for the new reboot of it that
Oh, sure.
it happened what 9 years ago. And I remember
Yeah.
yeah, I did it just from a stand-up set and when they said I didn't get it, I was like, oh, okay. Because I don't think I could even survive on something like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm not good at sketches or whatever.
Sure.
Or impressions.
I think too that Mad TV had a significantly different culture than like SNL. I think everything I've ever heard about it, I think you probably would have a nervous breakdown. Like I
Yeah.
think that it's high pressure, it's high profile. You're working on these insane deadlines, et cetera, et cetera. I think Mad TV was kind of always a little bit under the radar, which gave it a little more grace, or whoever was running it was just not nearly as like high pressure psycho.
Right. Exactly.
So you may have loved it.
Maybe. I don't know. But
Not that I just called Lauren Michaels a psycho. I shouldn't have that on record, but
no, we'll edit that. And
I'm kidding.
oh no.
I'm no longer auditioning for sketch, so it's okay.
But then you did the Bad Girls guide, which I thought that's kind of cool because I was like the show where it was like you're the one of the main stars. You know what I mean? Where that so like how is that transition where you're doing guest spots and now you have a show. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because again, like there's a lot about actors' careers, and especially like, pre-social media and pre like every single selfie blogging every single moment. Like I had shows where I was the lead that were dramas previous to this time in my life. Like for whatever, I did a lot of sitcoms, and then early on I did like 3 years of dramas, and they happened to be like a show that went for a year on the CW, or a show that didn't get picked up, but then I got paid to stay on. And so like there was a lot in there that it was not, by no means was it like the first lead I had done. It's just funny because it's later in my career, so like things are actually published, and
Yeah.
you're actually aware of it. And it was a fun, I mean, it was a fun gig. It was based on a series of books. Jenny McCarthy is a hoot. I
Yeah.
mean, she's like a just full on, like
Yeah.
morning to night, that energy, that personality, big, 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 big person.
I really like her because her son has autism and I have autism, so I think she's like a very good spokesman for
She is, yeah.
autism. So like that is something that I really like, because I remember growing up I was like, oh, I kind of wish she was my mom. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, sure.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And but no, it's funny how you say, like, you've done stuff that you were the lead that a lot of people don't know that didn't get released for whatever reason, because that actually does happen, and I don't think a lot of people know that. You know what I mean? Like you could film
Oh,
something.
yeah, there's tons of it. And in, again, like I said, in the olden days, in the 90s, in the 2000s, there was a lot more of it. I mean, each of those four major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, I mean, there were hundreds of pilots every year that they were making, and then only a handful would get picked up, and sometimes they would be like, well, maybe you're on the bubble, we might pick you up later. I mean, it was definitely a massive heyday of paid television, because
Yeah.
there was a ton of opportunity and a ton of spaces to kind of like work your craft and get up on all your skills and work your chops. But there was nothing kind of, I mean, again, there was no social media. So like, who knew about it? You,
It-
your agent, and the head of CBS. I mean,
and those are the only people who need to know about it back then. You know what I mean?
exactly. And your mom, because you
Yeah.
told her that you can pay your rent. That's it.
Have you ever done a job and then like they called you and say, hey, we gotta like recast your part, but
Fire you? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
sucks.
similarly to me being hired for two things on the same day, in I think that was 2002, in the year 2000, on my birthday,
Oh
I
my
was
god.
fired from two shows at the same time. So
Oh.
I had done a show in 1999 that they didn't pick up, and they had kept it around, and then they weren't sure of what they were going to do with it. And I went on to do another show for Lifetime. And on the same day, both called to say, we're not going to move forward with this one job. And if we do, we may go get somebody else. And then you're not moving forward, but the show is moving forward
Oh.
on the other one. Yeah, I
Was
don't
it?
think that you're really an actor until you've been fired. And
Yeah.
the better, the more garbaging, punishing, shaming, the better. Just get it over with. It's
Yeah.
coming.
So was that your worst birthday you've ever had?
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, probably.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge, big birthday person, so I can't quite remember if there's a worse one. But that one, let's just say, yeah,
It's
that
pretty.
wasn't my fave. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty yeah. I'm not a big birthday person either. So like yeah, I get that. And then you also are one of the few people who did both the 90210 originals and then
The reboot.
the reboot.
Mhm.
I was gonna say a remake, but it's not a remake, it's a reboot.
I'm not even sure if that's the right word, because it's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's remake, reboot. It's almost like, is it a spin off, spin out, spin in? I don't know. Because
Yeah.
right? Because like some of the original characters showed up as themselves, but it was not like it was not a like flash forward where this is Kelly and her child. Like it was a total refreshed imagination, and then eventually those old ladies showed up.
Yeah. It's like the Marvel universe, but Beverly Hills
There you
universe.
go, Beverly Hills universe. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how is that? Because on the reboot or the remake, whatever, you had a bigger part. You did more episodes, so that
Yeah, I mean it. So this is a fun fact. I got my SAG card doing the original 90210, which
yeah.
is like that's you're like you're finally in the union, you're finally legit. I think I had a 1 day job, but like that one forever is a very special thing for me because it allowed me to go do all those other hit shows that you're talking about because I was
Yeah.
legit. And then yeah, to go back and do a reboot, I mean, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I would love to do anything like that. Like, it's so fun to be in such a ridiculously over the top, fictitious world, fancy cars, stupid clothes. I mean, I think I left and moved to Paris because I had a migraine.
Oh my
Like, I
gosh.
think that's what happened to my character,
Yeah.
which is awesome because that's
Yeah.
what everybody does when they get a headache. They just pick up and move to Paris. So,
I
like,
was
I,
actually going to move to Paris, but I can't afford it.
yeah. Well, you also don't have a bad enough migraine because then you'd
Right.
figure it out.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then you did a Running Wild, which you wrote, and I wanted to know because like I write scripts. I haven't sold anything, but I wanted to know like how did you get the idea to like what made you want to start writing films?
Right? That's a great question. It's all it's quite backwards for my trajectory. So I mean, obviously I had written sketch and I am into storytelling, but I would not categorize myself as a writer, but more of a storyteller. And I had a friend who had a connection to a billionaire, which that's a fun thing to have. But
Yeah,
he had quite a few like social political things that he was really interested in highlighting, but not in a documentary side. It was like we need a narrative story that like allows us to kind of shed a little light on this interesting thing. And so it was like, well, there is this crazy wild horse population in the American West, and but nobody wants to talk about it. So can we make a movie and is there a narrative story? And so I pitched a couple ideas like I would pitch a sketch, only it's not funny. It's just like, well, what if this happens? And the idea I had was chosen. And so then I was connected with a writer and he and I wrote it together. And then really what it brought on for me is that I had to do all the research and I had to connect with all the cowboys and I had to go do all like go to, Oklahoma and go. I did all of that. So when it came time for the movie to go, I was like, I should really stay on as the producer because I have all the this is a very specific world, and you can't just go like, okay, great, somebody imagine it because
yeah.
that's not how it's going to work. And my friend who was making the movie was like, but you don't even know the first thing about producing. And I was like, yep, true. I didn't know about writing either. So throw me in the deep end. And that was my first movie. And it starred Sharon Stone,
Who you
who's
did
perhaps,
impressions of.
I had done impressions of, who's perhaps one of the more like brilliant and tough ladies on the planet Earth. So it was like baptism by fire. And then that really accidentally started an entirely other career for me. Like
Yeah.
I've now produced 12 other films and a television series, and like that's been my major bread and butter for like the last 7 years.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to ask you about writing because you said you wrote this with someone else. How did you like? How does that work? Because like when I wrote a movie with somebody else, but it was mostly his idea. Like he told me what to do, and I just put it in screen play format. So I wanted to know like, what was that kind of like how you guys did it?
No, I would say that, and I think it's very different. Writing partners work in a myriad of ways. So
Yeah,
we got together physically and sat in the same room to more or less break the story, break the 3 act structure. That, my idea was basically good enough for a first act. But now, like, what happens after oh, a woman lost her husband and she has got a horse thing, and like that's it. So now what are you going to do for the whole thing? But because it was a female lead and because I had done all this research, then I really had the information and specifically the character information, but he knew real screenwriting and real 3-act structure. And so we broke all of that down. And then I would say, he did the majority of first draft, and then it was really up to me to go back in and change dialogue, perfect dialogue, stick to the female leading character, like put her in a very specific voice, fact check every single thing about horses and hay and feed and blah, like, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that, like, a lot of people also, because like you see all these movies and sometimes they have like 4 or 5 writers, and I think people don't really know like how much part each writer did. There's also some writers that they just sold the story, they sold it, they got fired, and they still have credit for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and traditionally, the one thing I have learned, and more as a producer than anything else, is if you have 2 names and you have an ampersand in between them, it means they wrote together some version of a partnership. They went back and forth. When they're just listed in a row, it means one guy had it.
Yeah.
They got fired, or they punted it to the next guy. The next guy did a different thing, punted it to the next chick. She did a different thing. And so, especially with big popular movies, oftentimes a director wants to do a pass, so their name goes on it. Or you have, big studio movies, especially comedies, and I'm sure it happened Without a Paddle. You'll get the story and the structure pretty well suited, and you'll hire a team of punch-up artists who just do jokes.
Yeah.
But they get their name on the script.
Yeah. And sometimes they're not good jokes.
What do you mean? No, everyone's got always perfect jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's very good, because also a lot, like, when it's a story by then written by, there's a lot of confusion, on that. Like, I go to school for screenwriting and I'm still confused by all that stuff. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've had to learn a lot of it so that I know who to give credit to on my own films. But
and then I haven't seen this movie, but you did a movie called Searching for Fortune with John Hurd, and I wanted to I love John Hurd. I thought he was like one of the best character actors of all time, and I wanted to know, like, what was that experience, because I heard he was also the nicest guy in the world.
Nicest guy in the whole wide world. Most interesting cat. I didn't actually have scene work with him, but I did meet him. I actually had him in another movie that I made afterwards. So no,
nice.
He's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, he has since passed, and that's unfortunate, but he's amazing.
Yeah. I thought he was great in Home Alone. Like,
He's got so much good stuff that he's done, right?
Yeah, and then Big, a lot of people, that's what I like. That's what I like about character actors, because a lot of people don't know who these people are, and it's like I find they're really like the funniest people in the whole over the league, And then this movie I actually watched last year, and I fell in love with it. And this is the movie that really wanted me to talk to you. I Believe in Santa. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I thought it was very funny. I thought you were great. And then I found out your husband wrote it. So I love your husband too, because I thought that, I think Christmas movies, Christmas isn't my favorite holiday, but I think that the movies, they really kind of give the spirit more meaning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's a extremely, extremely special project for me. So my husband wrote it, I produced it, and one of our very best friends in the world, Alex, directed it. And basically, Alex and John they've co-written, we've worked on, I don't know, probably 8 different movies together. So there's a long-standing kind of collaboration. And Alex and John had this idea, like, we really want to make a Christmas movie, but it's got to be something different. And they like batted ideas back and forth over time. And then it was 2020 and there was a pandemic. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know, was it July when it was like, you can see your friends, but you got to sit outside. You have to sit away 6 feet away from each other. And so Alex was one of our first friends to come over and sit in the backyard. And like we did script notes on this movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's a bit autobiographical because when my husband and I met and were dating, he's a giant football nut. And I don't mean like a little bit. I mean, like we were dating, had a sexy summer, and then he like stopped calling me for 2 weeks. And I thought, oh, he's ghosting. Like, what happened? And I went over to his house, and it was decorated like a kindergarten classroom threw up football bullshit, like hanging from the ceilings. And he had 6 televisions installed, and he ran like a office pool. I mean, it was bananas.
Yeah.
And so it was like, what can I stay with this guy who is now like a nutter for this holiday? So that was a little bit of the backdrop for I Believe in Santa, which really like our dream for it was like, yes, it's funny. It's like a 40-year-old virgin. Like, how does this older guy like believe in something? But more importantly, a thought exploration, and specifically coming out of 2020, like, how can you be in a relationship with somebody who believes something so different than you do? Oh, turns out you just can. And it was being fueled by George Floyd and all of the Asian backlash from Trump and his Kung flu and all. I mean, like it was all of that coming together. And then Netflix agreed to make it. And then again, it was 2021, like November, and we got to handpick the crew. So not only we got to be in it, and Alex directed it, but the wardrobe, Elizabeth, Anthony Stavali, I mean, Ray on sound, like every single person that was in that crew, Ruben, who was our cinematographer, we had done 8 projects with each other. Like Michael Cooper did production design. Like I could go on and on. It was like, you got to hand pick your absolute favorite, tightest, sweetest group of friends and make something really personal.
Yeah. Well,
the end. So I'm glad you loved it.
I loved it. Like I said, it's probably in my top 10 Christmas movies. So I really did like it. And I've watched it about 5 times since. So it's really good.
Yay.
Yeah. I know I noticed that you do a lot of movies that your husband wrote, and I wanted to know, like, because you also write movies, do you guys, like, when you're writing these scripts, do you guys help each other or run off the ideas, or do you just finish the script and then read it?
No, I mean, I would say again, it's us, and then definitely our friend Alex. Like we call it the story hut, but I mean, I don't know. We're always writing, reading, giving notes, writing, reading, giving notes, like, and we don't usually wait to finish. I mean, it likes to be the first 30 pages, then who reads it, who has a comment, and then because there's 3, so obviously if it's 2 to 1, you're wrong.
Yeah.
If we think that joke sucks and you love it, but there's 2 of us, like, and I mean, it never ends. Like currently we've got about 5 going at the same time. Now, I don't typically put pen to paper, but I am the development executive. Like I am always reading, always giving notes, always. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So like when you read scripts, like what I'm sorry if I don't phrase it right, but what like turns you on about a script? Like what makes you want to flip the page and enjoy the story?
Right? Great question. Well, it's hard because typically I know the basic premise. If it's one of these internal ones, I know kind of like what the vibe. So then I'm just kind of like, is it well done? Is it concise? Is it well paced? Are the characters clear? Like, but if it's something I've never seen before and it's an audition I'm going to get, or like specifically last year, a girl, Ava, Retke and I mean, we read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds to try to figure out what we wanted to do for a pitch deck that we would have like a myriad of projects that we could possibly produce. I would say it's the first 10 pages. Like, if I'm bored or confused, I'm probably not going to keep reading it. If unless it's like, whatever, it's a job or it's a thing. But really, it like, I would say the first 30 pages is
Crucial. Yeah.
crucial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear,
So
and I understand who it is, and I understand what the main conflict is, and we've hit the inciting incident, then chances are I'm curious to see what happens next.
yeah. Thank you so much for answering that, because I don't interview a lot of people in the writing field. I just, like comedy and acting, but like writing is something I really want to do. So like
Right.
I always get scared, because it's like there's a tone to writing scripts. I'm not saying I'm the best screenwriter ever, but I know that there's a tone that, like, if I write horror movies, I know I would only pitch it to people who like horror movies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say, just because of the nature of my job, I've kind of read it all now.
Oh, nice.
I mean, just are we going to make a horror? Are we? I mean, I am not a fan of the Christmas genre, but a good, clever Christmas script can be, magic. We used to do a ton of sports dramas, like,
Yeah.
and true stories, some action. Obviously, because of my acting career, I've read millions and millions of comedy scripts. So
Yeah.
yeah.
My friend who I go on tour with, his name's TJ Miller. He was in Deadpool and all that
I
stuff.
know TJ. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a great Christmas script. So if we ever sell it, Christina Moore, I'll be like, we got to pitch it.
You should. Yeah.
All right, definitely. And so I have two more questions, and then I have one funny question. So
You got it. Go for it.
which one would you like me to go first? I don't know. Like, I could
Anyone.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. So here's a real question. Christina, will you put in a good word for John to do Reza riffs?
Oh yeah, of course I would.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
If you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, it could be from yesterday or, when you were young, where would you go and what would you tell yourself?
I don't know why this is my first blush, so always go with your first instinct. I'd go back to my college self and tell myself to make out with more people.
I like that answer.
Yeah. The rest of it's all going to work itself out. Just, you should have, made out with a couple more Sigma pies. That's all.
And then this is the funny question. If you had a farm, but you only could farm two animals, which two animals would you farm?
Horses.
Horses.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an obvious. Well, maybe horses, and then like border collies. Aren't those the ones that like herd animals and like are expert animal herders and stuff like that? Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know, but yeah. But I mean,
well, either that or, like, truth be told, because I'm definitely allergic to almost all animals. So maybe the only answer I could give you is like a poodle.
Yeah. Oh, I love.
I just have like a poodle farm, because I can't do cat. Like, I'm really allergic to anything with fur. So, but if I could just look out the window and like, and that I'm running the farm, but if I have to be hands-on, it's probably a poodle farm.
Oh, that's awesome. I would choose a spider, because you have to keep my pig, have it give him a buddy, right? Or
Charlotte's Web.
Exactly.
I got you.
And then
maybe I should have had like a bee farm. I like honey.
Oh, I love honey. Yeah. And then the second animal is I would pick sheep, and in case I get tired, I could just count them.
You're clever.
Uh,
Okay.
well,
Very clever.
where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
I am on Instagram at Lady Christina Moore.
Yeah.
And again, we've gone over this, that there's a million people with my name, so that's the only way to do it. I actually do have a new movie that I produced that's coming out tomorrow. It's called Holiday. How about that? Holiday in the Vineyards. It's a very sweet, formulaic rom-com set in the Christmas season.
Oh,
right. That's a happy time. We were able to make it before the actors strike, so we're one of the few that are out for the holidays. And that's kind of it. You know what? I tried Twitter and I'm not a fan.
no, it used to be cool, but then it got kind of weird. But yeah, I understand.
Weird.
I understand that. Hey, I do have one more question since you brought up this romantic comedy thing. Who's your favorite outside of yourself and your husband? Like your like your favorite romantic comedy actor you like?
I don't know. This one is easy for me because I think it's partly because I had no preconceived notions. I just walked into a theater and I thought I was going to lose my mind. I thought Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Brad Pitt in the opening. Like, I've not laughed that hard and been that tickled kind of since like really old school shit, like Romancing the Stone and like iconic Bruce Willis. Like, I don't know that they've made them like that in a while. And so it's really my favorite genre for the rom-com is action adventure rom-com.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, I love that.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to write an action adventure rom-com for you and your husband. I'm going to say, hey, let's do it.
Please do.
All right. Well, Christina, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. I want to respect your time and your day, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Definitely. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. All right, Rifters, subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.